Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye coverage of the 2014 elections continues. We're interviewing State Representative Andy Jorgensen. He's a Democrat from Milton, seeking re-election in the 43rd Assembly District. Andy, welcome back to Wisconsin Eye.
Thanks for having me.
Programming note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Let's talk about your campaign website. You ready?
Sure.
Tax fairness, workers' rights, public education.
Pretty much says it all, doesn't it, Steve?
I understand, but put context, put flesh on those bones. Tax fairness.
Well, I think we've seen a trend in the current administration to keep giving millionaires tax breaks. I want some tax fairness, and I want some help for the middle class when it comes to taxes. I don't think we've seen that.
What tax code changes do you want to help the middle class?
Well, it's pretty simple. I want the upper echelon to be able to pay their fair share. It's really something I think we need to bring back into reason. And if there's something that needs to be happening to the middle class, let's talk about it, and let's make sure it works and that we can pay for it and makes sense.
Okay, so the richest Wisconsin taxpayers are not paying their fair share? That's a question.
That's the trend. That's the trend of what's going on. Yes, there's if you look at the surplus, which is now a deficit, where did that money go that went to the upper echelon in our state?
Okay, do you think we'll have a deficit because of the 3 tax cuts that were approved over the last 18, 20 months?
Well, I think the Fiscal Bureau is warning us of that. I think that that's something that we have to be prepared for. But let's back up to when there was this projected surplus. Mm-hmm. I was a part of the folks that said, listen, that money isn't here yet. We don't have it in our hands. It's irresponsible to go and spend that money. And what did the governor do and the Republican legislature? They went ahead and spent money we didn't have. Now we're headed for a deficit, and that's just not responsible.
If there is a deficit in the 15-17 biennium, how should it be fixed?
Well, it has to be done with priorities. It has to be done with some spending. Has to be reeled in. Take a look at the facts. The Republicans last time, they said all these things that spending needs to be cut back, but yet they spent $1.5 billion more than the cycle before. You have to be able to say, listen, times are tough. We have to make some cuts where we need, but we can't keep going to the same pots all the time, too. And I guess this is a great segue to education. That can't be always the place you go to keep on chopping and cutting like the Republicans have been doing. We need to have priorities, and that's one of mine is public education and making sure we're doing the right thing and our kids have a world-class education because that's so important.
So if you're designing the next budget, there's a lot more money for K-12 schools, Andy?
There's a lot more money? No, there's a lot. It's priorities. The money that is there is something we can make sure that it's priority. Do we have money to spend on 2 school systems? And what I'm talking about here is the voucher schools, unaccountable voucher schools paid for by taxpayer money? No. We have to invest in our future, in our kids. It's a good investment. I think it's one that Republicans and Democrats can buy into because it works, because it puts people back to work. The quality of life of Wisconsin keeps it where we all can agree it should be, and that's a good investment, and that's where I want to make sure our investments are made in public education. The governor, he's responsible for the cuts that were made. $1.6 billion cuts to public education. We haven't clawed back from that the way we should have. And I want to make sure we do it, and we do it in a responsible way.
I want to come back to vouchers and choice. The 1,000 enrollment cap outstate, not Milwaukee, not Racine. What should it be in the next budget?
It's irresponsible to expand something that is unaccountable.
Do you want to wipe it out statewide?
I think we have to look at it. I challenge people to make the case that this is a good idea. We don't have the money. We just talked about that. We don't have the test scores. We don't have the evidence that this is something that we should be doing. Why not put the brakes on that and reel some of that in, and if not all of it, and a lot of it, I want to hear what cases are to be made. But I come from a place, let's take what we have that we were all very proud of and invest in it and make sure that we're doing it responsibly. Now, I'm not saying that we can't go through there and do some things differently and maybe do away with some things that may make sense. But the voucher schools, the talks that I've been a part of, the debates I've listened to from the other side, if there are any at all, don't talk about accountability. Don't talk about fairness with the public schools, which we already have in our state. I want to have those talks. Now, if they make sense, I'll listen. Because go ahead.
If it were up to you, would you continue vouchers in Racine and the city of Milwaukee?
Listen, those I'd like to listen from the different legislators there, but in my heart of hearts, I think public education is where we want to do our investing. I think that that's where we want to make sure that that we are headed for. I mean, that is where we've always done such a good job, and there are things that are broken. Let's fix them instead of throwing them away and coming in with a new product that isn't accountable. And there's no assurances that it's going to be teaching our kids like they say it will. I'm a big proponent for public schools, and if you've got a case to make where this is something that's working, make it. But so far, I haven't heard that.
5 or 6 weeks ago, the governor called for the repeal, withdrawal of Common Core standards. Reaction?
Boy, this is one that it just doesn't make any sense to me, because Common Core is just making sure that kids know what 2 plus 2 is and how they do it. And multiplication should be something you learn in the 3rd grade, or how you should be doing certain things. It's up to the school districts to come up with how you get there. It's very simple, but it's turned into something that it's not what it is. And you can listen to reasonable minds on the Republican side, like Senator Luther Olson. He is scratching his head on this and saying he's not going to be for legislators dictating what's taught in our classrooms. Let's leave that to the experts.
Transportation funding. Taxpayer Alliance says if you fund at the 2013 levels for the next 10 years, your $2 billion deficit. Is there a deficit?
Yeah, they're right. Oh, I believe there will be. And
how fix it?
Well, this is Andy's idea. I think we've got all the information we need to have. I think that the studies have been done. We know what we need to know about toll roads and all the various places that revenue could be changed and coming from, because cars are getting more efficient. People are driving less. There's all kinds of trends that we have to take into account. We have that data. It's time now for the legislature to come up with a plan that we can all agree on. What I'm tired of is one side coming out with one way to do it, and everybody throws bricks at it. Let's maybe have a task force made up of the Assembly and the Senate and of peers of mine to be able to come up with a way. This is what makes sense. Maybe you don't just do all toll roads. Maybe do a part of it. Maybe you also go to another source for revenue to have a combination that makes sense, that we can all buy into. But that's the key, Steve. We've got to be able to put our swords down on this one and come up with a plan that we can all agree with and get beyond this. And it's high time.
Would you consider gas tax increase, $75, an increase in the $75 you and I pay to register our cars?
It goes back to what the public can put up with, what they think is the right thing to do. The public agrees that our roads are something we should prioritize, and I believe that as well. But we've got to pay for it. And so we need to lay all of these ideas out on the table and maybe not just buy into one solely, but maybe take part of one and a little bit of the other and come up with a package, and this is the important part, that we can all buy into. And that's why I suggest a task force that has Republicans, Democrats, liberals, Tea Party on this, and come up with something we can all maybe have to hold our nose, maybe we can all be for it and walk out of a room and get it passed. But it's high time. It has to be a priority in this next session.
Okay, health care. 1 in 5 Wisconsin residents get their health care from the Medicaid program. American Hospital Association says our reimbursement rates second lowest in the nation. Should they be increased?
Probably, but you're not going to be able to increase them when you have a governor that doesn't take the federal monies to be able to pay for it. You have to be able to pay for it. And studies upon studies, and they keep on coming, keep reinforcing the fact that that was a poor decision. The good news is that we can change that decision at any time and get back on, right this ship and get back on track. So that is something that probably is going to happen, but the wrong decision has been made and is being married to. We have to change minds on that and do the right thing.
Going back to one of your keys on your website, workers' rights, are you calling for the repeal of Act 10?
I am for repealing the fact that I believe collective bargaining is a healthy thing, is something that was made our state as great as it was. I have never been convinced, nor will I ever be, that having a talk at a table like this, management and the worker, deciding what's best, yes, with benefits, with wages, but also safety and working conditions and good ideas that make the place we both work at efficient, I think is a good thing. Our state is hurting it because that has been knocked down, and I think restoring it and making sure that we have a talk as we do that to do it right is something I look forward to.
Are public employees paying their fair share of health care and pension costs, Andy?
Well, that came up in Act 10, and before the governor dropped the bomb, they agreed to do that. So I'm going to agree with them that they wanted to look at that. They felt they could do more, and so I'm going to agree that they anteed up a little more. That's what happened in Act 10. Before anything else came down the pike, they had already agreed to make those conditions.
You and I know that there's going to be another bill to legalize medical marijuana next session. And in light of Colorado and Washington, recreational marijuana is going to come up. Position on those issues?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've come a long way. Marijuana is something that has never been a part of my life at all. I grew up on a dairy farm, and it was just never did that. And but here's what I found. On medical marijuana, it's got its place, and under a doctor's supervision, I think is the place for it to be. There are some people that, they're a vegetable when they have to take Oxycontin or whatever they have to take instead of medical marijuana. And so I think we can do that right. I have come a long way on that one. On legalizing it recreationally, I would like to have that talk. I have some concerns, my heart of hearts, but I'll tell and some of my colleagues are very, very strong proponents on making this happen. But under the current majority party, I think that that's not going to happen this next session.
One of the first bills that that passed, but you voted against, was the Gogebic taconite bill last session. If you would like to revisit that, I assume, and do what to it?
Well, that's a great question. But first of all, I just want to make a slight correction. I voted for a bill that did make sense, that was for mining and did allow mining to some expansions to be made and for mining to be done in our state. Okay. But it did it responsibly. It thought of the environment and the local communities and the people whose roads are going to get torn up and they're going to have to endure some changes that they have to pay for. It encompassed all of that. I thought it was done in the right way, so I was for that bill.
For that one, but that one didn't pass.
But no, it didn't pass. The one was far away from that. It was written by the mining company. Senator Fitzgerald admitted to that. That's no way to do something responsibly in our state. It's not what we're used to. So you asked, what do we have to do to fix it? We have to go start at square one. We have to start with a blank piece of paper and start writing again, I think is the right way to build that one back up. And you know what, Steve? I'd like to have that talk. That's something that we should be able to work out. But when you have a mining company writing legislation in our capital, that's not the way to do it. You're not going to get the buy-in from a lot of people, including me.
It was an issue in the primary for Attorney General on your party's side, first offense drunken driving, crime?
Well, that's something that 49 other states have this on the books. And I'm not in a position to say that all 49 states are wrong. We have our challenges when it comes to drunken driving in Wisconsin. But if we're going to do this, Steve, we have to get the pocketbook out and pay for it. We can't just lay this on the laps of our courtrooms and expect them, okay, we passed it, now deal with it. We have to pay for it, and it has to be a priority that way. And so we have to take it to the next step, and I'd like to have that talk.
Okay. Any other issues key to your campaign I haven't given you a chance to talk about?
Well,
have you covered most of them, I assume, but anything else you want to tease out?
I've got a lot of things that I'm for, Steve. I've got a lot of bills that had gotten bipartisan support this last time. I make legislation. I was very, very enthusiastic about that. It was one of the first things we did in the Assembly that was brought forth by a Democrat, me, and was supported by Republicans and Democrats. Now, it died in the Senate, but it was a start, and it was a great talk that we had. It was an idea, so when people say, well, you know, Democrats didn't get their day in the sun, well, I'm here to tell you it was a short time, I want more, but we did have a talk about jobs and a meaningful talk about how we can create more jobs. My MAKE bills, which stands for Marketing, Manufacturing, and Keeping Employees, was something that we did find middle ground on, and we did pass, at least out of our House. And one of the things that's very important to me, and I'm for, is American jobs. I used to work at the General Motors plant, so I know and I understand the life that that has, and the quality of life that good paying jobs have in our state. I want to create more of those, but in order to do that, we have to be bold and take a stand as a state that when we're paying our tax money for products that are making our roads and our bridges and our infrastructure in our state, we want that money to stay right here in America. So I have a bill that's called Made in America. It fell down party lines, but I'll tell you, it's something I'm going to be fighting for this next session, because it's important. And it's important for a state to stand up and say, you know, no more of this. We're not going to send our tax dollars, our jobs over to China and across to other countries. We're going to stand for them staying right here in America, and hopefully right here in Wisconsin.
Okay, we're almost out of time so quickly. Do you want to highlight any differences between you and your opponent on November 4?
Well, I'll just say I have the experience now. I've done this since I've finished up my 4th term. I know how to work things out. I have many bills that have bipartisan flavor. Those are the bills I'm most fond of that became law. But I can work things out, Steve, and I have the experience to do that. And I'm not afraid of the word compromise. I think that's what we're supposed to be doing here. When I knock on doors, that's one thing that people say to me time and time again. Can't you guys work it out? That's what I want most of all, and all these things we talked about: healthcare, education, and jobs. We have to do it that way, and that's what I bring to the table.
Thank you. State Representative Andy Jorgensen of Milton is a Democrat seeking re-election in the 43rd Assembly District. Andy, thanks for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.